Just inviting in the Arcturians to answer our question today. So the first question that my subscribers had was, I'd love to know who is answering the questions when I use a pendulum.
Well, we'd first like to say, who do you feel like you are connecting to when you're asking those questions about life? Whether it be your higher self, your spirit guides, your angelics. Um, this is a great opportunity because for each and all, the answers are different. It's who's answering the pendulum. It's your team and who you are relying on and who is assisting you in your daily events. So if you are constantly in connection with your higher self, when you're asking those questions with the pendulum, it would most likely be your higher self. But this is also a tool when you're using the pendulum, you say, is this my higher self? Is this the angelics? And this is a great opportunity for you to rely on your connection with that team and your connection with self and your intuition and the connection with the tool that you are using to get answers that you seek.
So how does a pendulum work?
It just takes the energy. When you're asking a question, we're able to manipulate the energy to move it to answer. It's just like anything else, whether it be a spirit board, whether it be the rods. Carrie was saying, like we're showing Carrie the rods. Whether it be anything else, the numbers that you see daily, anything that you use, we're able to manipulate the energy to be able to answer the question that you need.
Perfect. So are there like any questions that you're limited on asking a pendulum?
There will be limited responses, but it's a good tool to use because it's a yes or no. And then there is the uncertainty, like sometimes you'll see it swirl in a circle, and that is the uncertainty of us being able to give you a definite yes or no. But we ask you to be more specific in your questions and also be specific about timelines as well. Because if you're asking questions and there are infinite numbers of probabilities within the timelines, you specifically, when you're asking while you're on that timeline that you are residing on at that moment. And you are not accessing information for all the infinite. Now, if you make a different choice in your life that accesses a different timeline, that answer that you get may or may not be reflected upon that timeline. So it may seem like it's inaccurate, but it's actually you just being on a different timeline.
So we also had another question. If humans of a high enough vibration would become more heart-centered, or would build more heart-centered intentional communities and were open to meeting friendly ETs, would they then feel comfortable to visit these human communities in person? So if we start building better communities that are heart-based, will ETs begin to visit us?
Yes, and that is where we are going with the galactic citizenship. We are going to a place where that will happen. However, most of the interactions, if a heart-based community were to access a interaction with a galactic being, then it necessarily wouldn't be a physical interaction. A lot of it's sent via holographic. For our bodies to ascend or to descend down to Earth, it is too physically hard on our bodies because we hold such a different frequency to be within that dimension in that lower realm of Earth. And so it's too physically hard on us. Although we have sent some of our beings before to do that for other purposes. But if you have a heart-centered community, you can then do meditations and you can sit in a circle and you can access like encounters with extraterrestrials, especially up in the sky. But for them to visit, it would visit more in a holographic manner that you would encounter.
So
The best way we suggest is to through meditation and channeling to gain that interaction with us.
So I know that we've talked about this before, but what does it mean to be a galactic citizen and why is it important now?
It means to be a galactic citizen is for the pathways to open that you can access the different like we're showing Carrie, like galaxies and planets, that you would then, that access is open. Right now, humanity does not have that ability. It's almost like, you know, you're going to a train station, and that train station, like there's no outbound trains. Like there's no way for you to get out of town. Well, that's the way it is right now on Earth, is that right now you are limited and not able, because of the experiment and where humanity's at in their evolution, to access those higher dimensions of different, like different planets is what they're showing me. And hold on there. So why it is important now is because the vibration of where humanity's at, the split that's happening with from 3 to 5D, is that now it's a time where that's opening up for humanity to be able to evolve and to have those interactions. So it's like you are now able to go to a different city, if you will, and experience, you know, if you've ever traveled a lot, you can see that there are different cultures and there are different ways that people live throughout your world. And when you go to experience those, it broadens your horizons and you have more appreciation and love. You learn some things, you gain some knowledge, you share your knowledge, your heritage, your culture. And there's this huge interaction of, you know, engaging and sharing and loving. And when you're able to do that on different planets, it has been stopped because of where humanity has been at, and they have not, let's say, they've not used the best choices. They're in lower dimensional things. They're in war, they're in conflict, they're in all these different things that we didn't want to spread to other planets. We didn't want to, it was like encapsulated Earth. We didn't want that to have effects and lower the vibration of other planets. So now humanity's at a place where it can.
So do we already have this technology? It's just been hidden from us? Or is this technology that will be provided with when we become galactic citizens?
Both. So over time, there has been a de-evolution in a way of humanity. Humanity used to have access to all these things and used to, these abilities were easily done. However, with the cycles and it's almost like the control alt delete. Like there have been multiple times throughout humanity's history where the earth has gone through, like destructions to wipe out humanity so it could restart again and see if they could be evolved in equal balance between technology, spirituality, between all the things that encompass evolution. And so every time the pattern of self-destruction or external destruction happens within humanity, it gets wiped out and it starts again. And so there has been great technology and great cities and great information and great knowledge that has been accessed throughout humanity's different cycles of lifetimes. And in a way, humanity de-evolved and restarted over. And so they were able to access technology, but in not as much of it's not as smart of technology, not as intuitive as technology, and it's not as pure as the technology. So there has been times in the past that humanity has had all this access to these great ways, stargates, all these things.
So I was watching, I watch Billy Carson a lot. Like personally, I trust his information. At least most, I resonate with most of it, I would say. But some of his information, he says that um, the like electrical cars are actually much worse than the like the automobiles that run on gasoline. So in the future, what does our future transportation look like just on Earth? Like even just like in the next 10 years.
We're showing more of, sorry, they're showing me like all of history's different versions. They're showing me that like there have been electric cars before this too, like that people utilized and like they were like obliterated. They're showing that, I mean, quite honestly, they are showing me that it's more or less like ships, that the technology that we have now will not be in the next 10 years, it will not be anything like the technology we have now. Like it's like those other things are non-existent anymore.
Yeah, and I guess if you look at just like how far we've advanced in the last 10 years, that does give me a lot of hope. Is there anything else within the next 10 years? Any like big shifts in technology that we'll see?
They're saying like the whole everything is going to change. Like the whole everything that we are going to experience is changing. And that is when we know we're on the fifth dimensional plane. And that like that other stuff, like they're showing me how it was before and it ceases to exist, like how there were electric cars before and then they went away. Like they're showing me that what we know today in this here and now will not exist in the next 10 years. It is going to be something that we can't even wrap our heads around where it's going to go as far as technology. But they're showing me it's more of they're showing me like a living being, like it has a heartbeat, like it's more of the technology that we have is going to be more organic and more in tune with us. And I quite don't get that concept that they're showing me. I understand what they're showing me, but I can't like relate it to you as how they're describing it to me. Like it's almost like everything we connect, like everything that we use is like going to be like you're co-creating together. It's like almost as if you like instead of putting your key in the car, you're putting your connection into the car and you and the car are driving together. Like that is the best I can explain is what they're explaining to me is what our technology will be like.
So I also saw that so we're entering the age of Aquarius, but the age of Aquarius actually begins in 2025. How does the age of Aquarius help boost us into the fifth dimensional consciousness? Like, why was it so important for us to be in the age of Aquarius during this transition?
Well, what they're saying right now is that actually time, you guys have time on the calendars and time in the way you experience it, but that it is not actually the day. If they were to go back, like time is not what you think right now. Like they have sped up and they have stopped and they have manipulated time, not in a bad way. We're not saying that in a bad way, but it is, time has been not messed with, but like they're showing me sped up, slowed down, stopped, like right in these past like 2 years is what they've said. They've especially been working on using time to capture some of the energies that we've had on this planet. So you may believe it's 2023 in your month of September right now, but it, like what they're saying is like the calendar now is, oh, they're saying it goes along with the channeling that you did the other day about cycles. We need to be more intuitive about the cycles and not the calendar date, because the calendar date that you experience is not actually like it would have been 2 years ago. So that time has been manipulated, and that the age of Aquarius is so important because it's the alignment of the planets and the stars and the constellations. And we utilize that, but it's not necessarily, that's why when you say 2025 and that we were already supposed to be in the age of Aquarius is because time has been manipulated with.
That makes sense. So another question is there a way a person can work with ley lines and make artificial structures to shift to higher dimensions or raise the vibration of their environment.
Now, can you explain on the artificial structures? What we're a little confused on the artificial structures.
Yeah, so I guess that like the feeling that I have that they're trying to ask is like, is there a way that we can set up our own energetic grids or even like create our own energetic portals to either create different dimensions or work with different energies in our favor?
Absolutely, but in a sense, you're not creating those different dimensions. Your desire to access the different dimensions would be more or less an accurate statement, is that you can work with the lines all the time, but you can constantly access any dimension that you wish to access based on the frequency and based on where you are in your inner work. And so you have the ability to access different timeline jumps all the time. Like you're constantly doing that. So you don't necessarily have to create a structure, an artificial structure to be able to do that. You have to create intention and you have to live as if that moment has already happened, and you can access that moment through doing that. Not fake it till you make it, but let's say like, you're going to raise it until you can access it, kind of thing. Like you're raising your frequency to access the portal or the timeline that you would like.
So is
Are
it
we
more
answering
just, yeah, is it more just like having the intention that it even is a portal that creates the
Absolutely.
portal?
Absolutely. And then start to like feel it, like where, start to really just like embody it, see it, work with your chakras. We work with each chakra to activate them to access that portal, and open it up. You are your own Merkaba. You are your own, your own spaceship in a way that can travel to whatever dimension timeline you'd like to. It's just a matter of releasing the density and doing the inner work and being able to access that frequency and that vibration and encompassing you have to feel it and embody it and then release it, to be able to do those shifts and those jumps.
So our next question was, I dreamt of a man and a woman in spacesuits, white and blue, coming to visit me. They felt like friends of a soul tribe. I would love to know from which planet they are from.
So we are showing a planet right now that it's trying to get the name, but they're not giving it to me. But it's a planet. It's a blue, like it's a very beautiful planet. Like if you look at it from afar, it has like this blue, beautiful haze, almost like you would with the Northern Lights, but it's all blue, like right surrounding like a halo glow around this planet. And they're saying that this is a planet that is like 2 galaxies away. And this is where you like to go. You have traveled to many planets and in your lifetimes, but this is like a home base planet where you would call home. And that those beings that were coming to visit you one of them was you, and one of them they were both versions of you from that planet that were coming to visit you.
Perfect, thank you. So we also had a question of um about Lisa Lopez from TLC. The subscriber says, I always felt like she was a star seed. How is she and what was her purpose when she was on Earth? Was she a Pleiadian? I always felt like she was.
We're just connecting with her energy right now, and we feel an immense amount of love. She feels this just tremendous love for whoever asked that question, just the fact that she could show up right now and be seen. And she said that her mission was love and awareness, and it felt like she was on a mission to stand up for those who didn't have a voice for themselves, and to show people to dream bigger than they already dream, and that anything could be accomplished. And so she's really, I mean, this amount of love that she's sending is just beautiful. She really did love what she did. She really did feel like she lived the fullest life that she could, knowing that her contract would have an early exit. And when she stepped into that role, that she already knew that was going to be her exit. And so she says, don't be sad for me. I lived the life that I wanted to live. I experienced the range of emotions that I wanted to experience, the heartache, the fun, the joy, the laughter. But it was those moments of when she stood up for those who didn't have a voice for themselves are some of her, when she looks back, most fondest memories, because she felt like she had this platform. And she said, I was little in body, but like, man, I wanted to like show the world what's up. So like she really wanted to she was little in her body, but her spirit and her soul is so huge and so beautiful, in all that she wanted to encompass and share love with and awareness. So as far as Pleiadian, she says she's visited the Pleiades in the past lifetime, but she is not Pleiadian.
Is she able to share what group she feels most connected with?
She said, I loved them all. It's a first.
No, it is so beautiful because like I've channeled a lot of like the mainstream artists that have passed away, and that they are just so full of love, and they really did just come here like wanting to spread their gift. Because I've been told that like that musical gift where you're able to like just spread love through music, that gift is held within your soul. Like it's not even your physical gift, it's held within your soul, and you're just here to like spread that gift through the entire universe. So it's beautiful.
Yeah, and she feels really like this part, like she's like, oh, you guys still remember me? Like it's almost like this humble, like, oh shucks kind of thing. Like, like she's like really happy to still be seen.
Does she have any final messages or any messages about like what the collective could do at this time?
She just really has this message of just standing strong, standing united, standing loving of one another, just accepting that everyone's from a different place, but you all share the same heartbeat, the same frequency of love. And that she's saying, this is the time more than ever to just be united and to see the beauty in each other, and to help your fellow person out that doesn't feel strong enough to stand up for themselves. Empower them, love them, show them through your actions, through your strength, so that they can be lifted up and united. And she said that, like, and also don't take some of this stuff so seriously, like have fun, play with life, because, and she's saying that you've got to play with it, you've got to enjoy life, you've got to enjoy the creation, the harmony. Like she's singing, like she's showing me her words coming out, like the harmony of life. Oh, and she's saying be careful of the words you use too. Like she's saying those have, like, she's showing me symbols with the words. So yeah, I mean, she loves us.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming in. Um, we do just have one final question about Bashar. Um, so are we able to bring in Bashar and ask him a few questions?
So what my higher self is saying is that my higher self will facilitate the questions and answers through Bashar. Um, yeah. So it's like a middleman.
Okay, that's perfect. So, who is Bashar and what are his intentions?
So Bashar is just a higher vibrational being, if you will, the being that's on a different dimension, a different vibration, that is here to spread the message and to help guide humanity in evolution. Because what we see is that they're like their collective, um, the Essassani, is that correct? Would be, yeah, they're saying, showing me like Essassani is their collective is awaiting humanity to make certain choices so that because there's a cause and effect, because it affects the evolution of Bashar's collective. And so they are here relaying information, guiding humanity, helping them to be able to stay on the main trajectory of that evolutionary path, because there's a direct cause and effect for their collective.
So, who are the Essassani?
As far as specifics, I mean, they're a collective that was it Essene? I don't know what planet that is. Essene. Carrie's not familiar with that. Are from that planet that it's really hard to explain that. They're just, they're the Essassani. What specifically do you want to know about the Essassani?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that I've actually never heard what collective Bashar was from. So, could you just tell us a little bit more on like the type of messages that they're bringing to the collective? And then also, I feel like when Bashar channels, he is just like very direct. Like he will definitely like tell you how it is. Is this just kind of like a characteristic from the collective that he's from?
Yes, and you'll find that it is a characteristic, but you'll find the more and more we don't have like on different higher dimensions, we don't have the huge spectrum, the range of emotions that is experienced throughout planet Earth. You guys, if you've ever seen the sliding scale of emotions before, I mean, there are quite a bit, from sadness, anger, grief, all these things, all the way up to, happiness, joy, fulfillment, love. I mean, there's all those range of every experience that you want to experience, every emotion perspective that you want to experience here on Earth. The more and more you get to a higher frequency, that lower range of emotion drops off. So now you have more of an objective, neutral observer in a way. It's more of a scientific approach on many other planets on how they experience things because they come from a very objective, neutral, learning, observational state. And so when you have a conversation that with a higher dimensional being, you are going to a lot of the times, although there can be humor placed in it, there's going to be a lot of times where it's a very like neutral, observational, give you data, give you information type of conversation. And so when you have here on Earth that your emotions are all attached to these things, when you receive an answer from that neutral observational point, humanity tends to put an emotion onto it, like guilt, shame, all these things. And it feels direct, right? Because you're like, wow, you gave me a very like black and white answer. And it's like, well, because we don't deal with these range of emotions, we don't deal with them. That's part, like we are more or less like from a place of unconditional love, but it's not such a woohoo love that you guys may express, because you guys are very expressive beings there on Earth. You guys like to like mimic what you see in the movies. A lot is mimicry behavior, but like unconditional love isn't as extraordinary with all that layer you all put onto it. It's just an energy, a vibration, a frequency. So we still have unconditional love for you. It's just in a very direct way.
Yeah, and um so it's actually interesting that like your higher self said that you'd facilitate it because I don't think I've ever actually seen anyone else channel Bashar rather than Daryl Anka. So, is there a reason why there are some people that channel specific beings, and then there's others like me and you were very open channels, so like we'll channel all of these different people. What's the difference between like beings that channel through everyone versus like you have like Lee Harris who like just channels the Z's. You have Daryl Anka that like just channels Bashar. Is this just like soul contracts that they came in with?
Absolutely, soul contracts and the frequencies. Like, y'all are so big into astrology and all of those things, your human design, all those things, and still it's somewhat hard for your human brains to. Carrie's laughing because she's like, "You make it sound so stupid." Like, like it's so hard for you guys to understand that there, a lot of it is soul, it's frequency, it's soul frequency. There's a like for like, it's just it matches. And so, but part of that was the life contract, and so they entered into this frequency and their frequencies connect. Like, when in channeling, the higher state of being lowers their frequency, and then the human being raises their frequency, so they meet at a place in the middle that creates that connection. So everyone, it's like a compromise, like I'll meet you in the middle kind of thing, it's like, so, but most of it is soul contracts. And also there is belief that plays into it as well. If you believe that you can only channel the bees, and that can play into it as well. So, when Carrie started making this connection about Bashar, she could feel his soul signature frequency. She could feel the energy of Bashar and kind of encompass it, but her higher self is facilitating it because Bashar is at a higher frequency where Carrie can't quite connect to as well. And so because the connection won't make as well, the higher self is kind of like playing the middleman to relay that information, because Carrie has such a great connection with higher self. And so you're able to third party channel that way as well. But you're still getting the information that you would need, maybe not as high level as information because the connection's not as good, but you're still getting information.
Okay, perfect. Do the Arcturians have any messages for the collective today?
Right now, what the Arcturians have to say is that we love you all. We absolutely love you all. And we are here. We are supporting you. We are guiding you. We are doing the best we can. And we know that it is not easy. Carrie shared yesterday, even about with her day yesterday was a hard one, and just the energies that are coming onto this earth every day, and how if you're still being triggered with your inner work, if you're still being shown what needs to be released, that is just our gift to you, so that you can release them now, so you can be at that next level where you'd like to be later. We just all encourage you to still continue to do that inner work, just to dive into those things that may be coming up, because we just know where the next 6 months is going to take you all. And so we just encourage you all right now, where you have this rest time and this reprieve, to really work on self, really work on forgiving self, forgiving others, loving self, loving others, pampering self, pampering others. Anything you do, remember to start with self, and to, once you're ready, to send that love out to others, or that action out to others. And we are always here to answer any questions, to help guide you, to do whatever we can to help you with this evolutionary process.
There have been a few things that have happened recently. Um, is there a reason? So, like they said that there were like 8 planets in retrograde. How does this really have like a very like energetic impact on us? And what can we do to get through these energies?
It absolutely has an energetic impact. Like what we're showing, Carrie, is if all these magnets were kind of like moving around, but they came into alignment to make one straight, like one straight trajectory. Like imagine that magnetic pull that it would have versus as if each individual magnet were orbiting the earth. And so when they're in alignment, what it does is it magnetizes and draws out those triggers and those lower density things that it needs to sift out of you and to pull out of you. So you can look at them and you can send unconditional love. You can forgive yourself. You can really do your inner work as far as when those triggers come up. But we understand when you're there with not as many tools, not as, you don't have your remembrance, all those things, that it can feel like it is what Carrie would call a shit show. Just like, she's laughing. But we're saying to you is that it's all absolutely has a role in what's going on. And what was the second part of the question?
Just what could we do to work through these energies?
Like we said, you can, ask your team, connect with your team, meditate with your team, and ask them why these things are coming up. Ask them, feel into it. What is that emotion that you need to release? Do you need to go back to that inner child and acknowledge all those things that are coming up for that inner child and say, you're right. You should have felt safe. You're right. You should have felt loved. Because usually the incident, if it was recent, that comes up, usually has a root cause down below that has to do with childhood. And it usually has to do with something that you should have felt safe, protected, guided, loved, any of those things. And that at that moment in time, you were not. And sometimes you just need to go and allow yourself to be the victim and allow yourself to feel those things, but to acknowledge that the adult in you is doing just fine, is thriving, is loved, all of these things, whatever you can do for that inner child to help. Because usually what we're saying with humanity is a lot of the root trauma that they experience as an adult is you have to go back into your childhood and you have to go into and find out where that child did not feel its needs were met, and acknowledge it and love it and send it and honor it by acknowledging and saying, you're right. Because a lot of times you're afraid to be the victim. You're told, don't be the victim. And it's like, yeah, as an adult, don't be the victim. But did that child, do you need to go back and honor, but also acknowledge that it was part of your life contract so you could help and serve others? So right now, during this time, especially during retrogrades, it's usually the magnets need to be pulling that out because it's so deep and it's so embedded from your childhood.
That makes sense. So I just have one final question. So the last like week or so, I feel like I've just been seeing more news on the moon. So like um the news posted that China found structures under the moon and that India just went to the moon for the first time and landed successfully. Can you just kind of tell us like what's going on from your perspective with these things and why they're like drawing attention to the moon?
The first word that came up from them was distraction, but also they're saying that they're utilizing the narrative of the moon because when there's going to be contact soon, there's going to be open contact soon. And so opening up that narrative about the moon, it's more believable because it's so close. People see it every day. It's not as scary. If you were to say like, Mars or Pluto or any of those planets, like we're seeing structures there, it like you say it outside of our galaxy that there are structures, like people, it's too much. So what they're showing me is like they start small, like with information about the moon, but they're also saying it's a distraction.
That's what I was thinking too, just because like then you also have Elon Musk who just created a new rocket or that's like a new spaceship. Um but it blew up the first time. And don't we already have this technology?
Yes. And he's already been to where he says he wants to go occupy. He's already there. That's another, that's another, a full episode, however you will. But, he's already been there. Like it's already, a lot of these structures and underground, places are already established and already being utilized.
Yeah, so I guess like why, how come, I guess they just told me too that it's like they're doing it kind of just for show. Like they're trying to just make it like a show for us that we're actually building this technology and trying it out for the first time. And it's like we have to watch them fail before they succeed. Is that what they're doing?
Yeah, it is. It's really a big show. It's like Carrie's laughing because she's because we're showing her the imagery. Her dad used to always like buy something. It was always like a new car, Harley Davidson or whatever. And usually when he was like starting to talk about it with the family, like, hey, I was looking at this car, the family already knew the car was going to be in the garage tomorrow. Like by the time he was like able to talk about it, like he had already made his decision and already been established. The paperwork had already been signed, but he felt like he needed to still hold out this like, oh, now I'm asking for your consent. Now I'm asking for your input, when he never really cared about our input to begin with. And so like it's the same thing. Like all these things are established and they're like now that it's established, they're going back to humanity and they're like, oh, we may think about doing this. Oh, we may fail, we may succeed. And it's like this weird, like it's this weird thing and it makes them feel like, oh, they're making humanity a part of the evolution, but in reality, like it's just all smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I saw something else that they said that like the military is actually like 300 years advanced in technology than what they actually give to the public. So, what kind of technology? I know we kind of touched on it, but like just to wrap this up, what kind of technology can we expect um in the future? Like let's say like on New Earth.
So the technology is like okay, so you imagine you have the internet now. You type in something, you get the information. Well, that's a like the Akashic and the quantum, you would be able to ask that question and automatically, as kind of like you're channeling, but it would be more of an instantaneous in your brain. You would be able to get that, like, it's almost like a Hey Siri moment, but it would be in your brain and it would all be from Akashic. And there would never be in the, like etheric realm, there would never be the side effects that you have with the radiology, with the technology that you have now. It's like it's a free flowing organic informational based system that you are the computer basically, is what they're showing Carrie. And then use a lot of like lasers, but not like they're saying the lasers that the government uses right now is not necessarily higher vibrational laser technology. They're using it for lower dimensional things. So the lasers and stuff like that for healing and using like sound and using the waves of the sound energy for healing in the future. Just it's a more organic, intuitive way of living is the best way to go along with it. Is that what will be experienced?
I don't know if I'm like supposed to ask this on YouTube, but I'm just curious of like the Arcturian perspective. So there's been a lot of talk lately about direct energy weapons. Is this something that we need to be concerned about, or is this like reptilian technology?
So the technology was like we're showing like Atlantean times. Like the technology is directly correlated with Atlantis. So it was technology that was used with Atlantis that was brought here now. And that both higher frequency collectives and the lower frequency collectives have access to be able to utilize this. So like we're showing a lot of satellites and stuff like that, but both have access to it to be able to utilize it.
So is this like part of the technology that destroyed the planet once already?
Yes.
And what are things that like what could we as just like normal people do about this? Because like we don't want to see like the fires around Earth. So like what can we do? Because like I think when we see things like this, it feels like sometimes it is hard to not feel afraid or it is hard to be like, what could I possibly do if they have lasers from the sky? So what can we do?
So with knowing that there are infinite number of timelines and infinite number of Earth versions that exist, and with those infinite number, there are versions of Earth that no longer exist. There are versions of Earth that have already been imploded, exploded, however you'd like to visualize that. And the only thing we can suggest is live each day to its fullest. Live in gratitude, live in love, enjoy the moments that you have. Know that you have a team and you already have it in your soul contract when you are meant to depart this earth that we will guide you to help fulfill. And so that those things is we say when you're living that way, you're accessing a higher timeline that most likely that will not happen on. It's when you live in fear that these things happen, that it's like the law of attraction. You attract the timeline that may exist where that version of Earth then is what you experience. So what we're saying too is do your best to just be in the now moment. And I know it's cliche. We know it's cliche to say those things, but the best you can to live each day to the fullest, knowing and trusting your team. And the more and more you have a connection, then the more and more you'll feel it. Like if you realize with what you call reincarnation, that you live infinite number of lives, then how the fact that you may leave this earth, it becomes less fearful and you become able to be in the now moment.
Yeah, so okay, so what you're telling us is like we can raise our vibration to where that event may not even occur for us. Like we could raise our vibration past the third to like a higher timeline where we're not even affected by that kind, like these lasers and things like that.
Absolutely. Like Carrie in her past channelings during the lockdown has experienced a timeline where there was a false alien invasion. And the timeline that she accessed, she was laughing because she said they're like, the question was like, well, how is it going to be? Or is the earth going to be destroyed? And she said, no, it's going to be more like a pew pew. Like it's not that bad of a thing. But that's the thing is because she was accessing the higher timeline. Now in the lower timeline that she was not on, what she experienced as the future was a lot more intense and there was a lot more destruction that happened. But because she was accessing the higher timeline with her trajectory, that it was like just nothing.
Yeah, I agree. And then so is there a difference between like I guess so like when these events happen, but they don't directly affect us, what's the difference between like living in the present moment with that event that happened that didn't directly affect us versus like how do we act differently if we are directly affected by that event? Does it make sense? So it's like, um, I guess the question is like, how do we not live in fear, but then if like these things do happen directly to us, because I think we are going to start to see more things on earth happen, what are things that we can do in like that actual present moment to help our community and help help earth evolve through those things?
Absolutely. And that's a valid question. And the most urgent thing we can say to you is to do as much of your inner work right now as you possibly can. So that when those moments do come before you, that you are that much more prepared, that much more connected, that much more free of all the lower level baggage to be able to access those higher level reactions in a way where it's not so much of a reactionary fight or flight, but it's more of like you are trusting, you are guided, you are connected with your team, you know exactly what you need to do and trust that you're exactly where you need to be. And a lot of those outside you guys have been experiencing, especially for the past several like we're showing here 3 to 5 years, you have all been seeing like what we would call old earth experiences of the breakdown and the catastrophes going on in different surrounding areas that you guys have all have navigate. And we just say, like, if it's meant to be something that you're experiencing, it will come across your timeline, and try not to attach to those other timelines because they're not necessarily a learning lesson for you. It's maybe a lesson for that community. But do what you can in love. Ask your team, what am I guided? Like, show me today. Like, every day, if you want to be of help, ask your team, guide me and show me what I need to do to be better and help for the situation. And they may show you action that you can call and action that you can take. And they may show you, like, it's not for you. This is not your lesson to learn. And that's okay too. And you can just release it and let it go. But what we're saying is the more inner work you do now, the more you do to release all those triggers and things that come up for you, the more in connection you're going to be with your team to be able to be guided in those instances of what you need to do and what is in your life contract and what is helping raise the vibration of humanity.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, so I just really want to like mention again, like just how important it is to be connected to your higher guidance. So if you ever feel like you're in resonance with me or Carrie, just feel so free to reach out to us. And we can always talk to like just talk to you about how to get into communication with your higher guidance. Like we're here to help guide and listen to people. But that's all the questions that I had. So thank you. And I love you, Arcturians.
We love you all. We love you, Ceirra.
Thank you.